Hey guys, welcome back. This is another Alviso crit with a huge group. And it didn't take me long to start doing my normal thing, finding opportunities to attack when they present themselves. So here I'm coming around the front, guys. It spins fast. It was strung out single file. So I'm going to put in this attack right here. I'm going to go all the way to the left-hand side of the road because there is a right-to-left wind through here. And we had just come through the technical section, so the field's all strung out, and this is a good time to put in an attack and get a little gap. But it doesn't work, and eventually I get caught. But the thing is, I didn't go too deep, so I'm able to just re-infiltrate with the group without too much of a problem, and also force some of my competition to chase me back, which means it wasn't a total loss. And on these attacks, I'm not going so deep that I won't be able to respond to chasers as they catch me, or maybe a counterattack that goes. The idea is to get a gap, force others to chase. So a little later on, I'm up towards the front in a position where I'm saving energy in the draft, but I can still selectively respond to attacks as they go. And I've described this ideal position about 8 to 10 wheels back in my other videos. Most of the action is going on in front of you, and it allows you to respond to attacks, potential breakaways, stuff like that. It's also an ideal position for you to launch an attack yourself because you can carry speed past the front riders and get that slingshot effect, which discourages riders from chasing you and helps you establish a gap, which Brian demonstrates right here as he winds up an attack coming around my left-hand side. And even though I hesitated for a moment, because of my good position, I'm still able to respond without too much of a problem. So this is a really long solo attempt for Brian, and the reason I'm chasing him down here is to potentially establish a gap with him and to work with him on a breakaway, and that's why when I catch him, I immediately come around him instead of just sitting on his wheel. But it doesn't work, and we eventually get caught. And this started a stretch of very aggressive racing with a lot of threatening moves. I found myself initiating some of them. Also, I found myself responding to quite a few of them, and I was getting pretty tired in the process, to be honest. But every time I looked back, I noticed that there were either splits in the peloton, or more often than not, my main competition were having to get on the front and chase. So that's always nice. And because they weren't in my draft, they were getting tired at the same rate as I was. So my goal here again is to prevent a late race breakaway from getting away without me in it, while also attempting to save enough energy to still have confidence in my field sprint. So I'm hoping that I can force others to chase, and in instances when I'm forced to chase to the front, like right here, I'm making sure that the people behind me aren't getting a free ride in my draft. So as I get close to catching this guy off the front, you can see in my shadow, I look back, I realize that, I don't have a gap anymore, so I kind of slow down, I flick my elbow, and I make sure that these other guys are doing work too. I'm not just going to tow them up to the front, because then I run the risk of them countering, and it would be really hard for me to respond in that situation. And at this point, it's just on. I mean, we're not being friendly anymore. We're attacking each other, and we're just trying to get away. There's only 6.4 Ks left to go, so this is what I love about the Alviso crit. It's just everyone rides super hard. It's some awesome training, and it's a whole lot of fun just come out here with your buddies and go really hard. As I come around this guy here, I put in a little effort and I realize, oh, there's a gap. So as I take this corner, I turn back and hey, it hurts like hell, but I'm gonna go super hard again because this is my strategy at Alviso, is I go hard and I make my competition chase me. Especially when there's gaps like this opening up and there's splits in the peloton. In bigger P1-2 races with organized pro teams who have radios, who can really organize like a really efficient, really effective chase, I wouldn't be able to get away with this type of racing. But, you know, out here and in the majority of P12 races, Cat 3 races, Cat 4 races, this technique is super effective. And because the chase behind is so disorganized, by the time this little group that I'm in gets caught, nobody's really in a position to counterattack. So that allows me just to sit in, save my legs for the sprint finish at the end. Alright, so here we are on the last lap. And my nemesis, Brian, has established maybe a 5 or 6 second gap at this point, but he's by himself. So I'm not too concerned at this point because it's still a long ways to go by yourself, but I do want to make sure that the pace stays fast. So I put in this little attack to make sure that the speed remains high, that other people are going to start contributing to the chase, and I want to make sure that people aren't just sitting in my draft. I want to bring out some people that are willing to rotate at the front with me. And I play a little risky game here with Brian because he still has, 5 seconds or so, and I don't really want to catch him right away because, well, number one, I don't really want to commit this to an enormous effort on the last lap. That would not do my sprint any favors. And also, I might not be able to respond to some counterattack that goes if I do a hard effort and bridge across to Brian. Number two, if I get across to Brian with, let's say, 2K left, then he might be able to get back in, take a breather, and then be fresh, for the field sprint and potentially snag a field sprint from me. So I'm more than okay with letting him just kind of hang off the front by a few seconds, always remaining within striking distance. And I just want to make sure that the gap he has remains manageable, doesn't swell up to 10 seconds or 12 seconds on the last lap, because that's when it can get really dangerous. But if he's out there suffering by himself and I'm doing some of the work, not all of the work, then I'm remaining more fresh than he is. And that became my plan to win today's Alviso crit. Let Brian dangle off the front by a few seconds on the last lap, and then close the gap and come around him in the last few hundred meters for the win. Alright, so this is good. I have this group of guys around me, most of whom are willing to chase. The speed is remaining relatively fast, and I'm not being forced to the front, having to desperately chase back Brian in the last 1.2 kilometers. And on top of that, now there's this attack that's gone on the left, guy trying to bridge across to Brian, so the pace is being lifted even faster. So I was happy with the speed we were going up until about this point, and it started to slow down just a bit. Rotate! You can hear me calling for people to rotate at the front because I just want to make sure it remains fast enough to keep Brian within striking distance. And I'm calling for on the left because here goes Ben winding it up, and I realize this is Ben's ideal distance. He carried some speed past the front riders who were already pretty tired. I'm going to have to jump across.
Get him, Ben, get him!
And I start yelling at Ben and motivating him to chase down Brian, and Ben delivers.
Get him, Ben, get him! Yeah, Ben, get him! Got him!
Once I realize Brian's within striking distance, I come around Ben, and I save just a little bit to come around Brian with some speed, just in case he had a little left over for a sprint, and catch him right at the line. Another Alviso win. Thanks for watching, guys. See you at the next one.